Hello, my name is Snowlight. This is my Warcraft University, a YouTube series intended to give new and mid-tier players simple concepts towards playing World of Warcraft at a higher level. In this video we will discuss playing the game, fundamental concepts. Up to this point, we've spent some time discussing the differences between roles and classes, laying some foundation for you to decide what kind of playstyle you are looking to play in Warcraft. We will return to this method in the coming videos, but for this topic we are going to change things up and instead discuss some core concepts and terms that will apply to all characters in the game. Beyond the decision on which class you will play, the next level of decision making is going to involve your specialization. As we've established before, all classes have at least one DPS spec, but by selecting certain specializations you will either change the method through which you deal damage, or you will choose an entirely different role, all without changing your class. Along with this decision comes a number of abilities specific to the spec you chose. In older versions of Warcraft, there was a gold-based cost to changing your spec, but that has been removed and it is now free to change specs as long as the player is not in combat. In addition to the spec you choose, there are a number of talents for you to choose as well. As of the Shadowlands expansion, current for the release of this video, these choices come in tiers of 3 options. Choose one of these 3. If you want to dive into the best choice for your class, and the reasons behind these and other choices, look up your class and spec on icyveins.com and find the link for builds and talents, and spend some time there looking at which options will work for your class. That being said, we have confirmation with the next expansion, Dragonflight, this talent system will be removed and a new tree-based talent system will be implemented. I am confident that Icy Veins will continue to provide in-depth analysis after the change has been implemented. When you hover your mouse over various things throughout the game, you probably want some information on these things. To that end, Blizzard has implemented a pop-up window with help text concerning that thing. This could apply to other players, NPCs, enemies, items, abilities, objects, nearly everything in the game. The pop-up will either appear next to the object, if it is convenient for it to be nearby, or it will place it somewhere near the bottom right of the game window in a default location. When you're looking for more information on something, hover your mouse over that thing and look for the help text window to pop up and give you something more about that thing. As for abilities, we've already used this term a few times throughout the previous lessons, so let's clarify what constitutes an ability in Warcraft. Simply put, an ability is an action your character will take when you press a certain button or input a certain text command. As we've demonstrated before, you can move ability buttons from your spellbook to an action bar, where you can easily click on that button with your mouse, or you can press the appropriate button bound to the action bar, like the numbers 1, 2, 3, etc. on your keyboard. With other commands like dancing or bowing, you can open up the chat window and type in the appropriate command and press enter, and then your character will do the associated action. Not all abilities are created equal. Some are much more powerful than others. With that in mind, how do we balance the more powerful abilities with the weaker ones? This is where cooldowns come in. After you use an ability, there will be a period of time, called the cooldown, where you cannot use that ability again. For weaker abilities, this is generally a very short amount of time, maybe just a second or so. And the more powerful the ability, the longer the cooldown period. Upwards of 10 minutes for the most powerful abilities. There are also a few non-combat related actions that do not incur a cooldown and can create some interesting animations. There is one very special cooldown that applies to all players, the Global Cooldown, or GCD. This cooldown applies after you press one of your character's basic abilities and locks you out from using any other abilities for about 1.5 seconds. During this short delay, there is not much your character can do besides movement, so it's a good idea to use this movement to put yourself in the right place during an encounter. However, there are some abilities that ignore the GCD. We call this being off the GCD. These abilities can activate at any time alongside your regular abilities. These will generally incur their own longer cooldown, but do not prevent you from using other abilities that are on the GCD. Either that, or it will consume a resource that takes some time to charge back up, like the warrior ability, Ignore Pain. Either way, these are balanced separately from the GCD. Okay, now that we have discussed talents, abilities, and cooldowns, how are you going to decide which abilities to use when you have multiple options? For this, you will want to be familiar with your spec's rotation, sometimes called an ability rotation or spell rotation. For many classes, this is primarily a cascading priority list, where if your most powerful abilities are ready, then you want to use them, and repeat until you are left with only your basic abilities. When you are left with only a basic ability to use, this last ability is called your filler ability, or just filler, because it fills in the empty space while you wait for others to come off of cooldown and be usable again. For your class and spec, you can find details on your optimal rotation by visiting icyveins.com and finding the link for rotation, cooldowns, and abilities. And now a little change of pace before we wrap up. Most classes and specs are built around you, the player, controlling just your own character. Certain classes can choose to break this mold and instead play alongside a pet, which you also control. And in some cases, this focuses on dealing the majority of your damage through your pet. You have control of your pet, but in general it will automatically do the things you would want it to do anyway, like attacking the same target as you. These are most noticeable for hunters and warlocks, which nearly always have a pet of some kind at their side. But there are also temporary pets that are summoned for a short period of time, anywhere from 15 to 60 seconds, and then go back to wherever they came from afterwards. Examples of this would be Death Knight summoning ghouls, priests summoning shadow fiends, or shamans summoning various elemental beasts or totems. There are a number of different ways you could describe the skill level of a player. Two terms commonly used to describe a low skill player are noob and noob. You might think these are synonyms or even the same word, but they are quite significantly different. If you call someone a total noob, this is a derogatory term that means the player has no skill, usually a player who thinks they are better than they really are. In contrast, a newbie is a new player who is still learning and improving. I always like to encourage newbies to seek out veteran players who play the same class and spec and see if there is a potential mentor-based relationship there, which will help the new player to improve faster. One final term before we wrap up. Warcraft is a social game that encourages people to play together. If you have friends who play with you, that is the best scenario, but occasionally you will be playing with random people on the internet instead. These random players are often called randos or pugs. The term pug comes from pickup group and can refer to the group itself or the random players which you were not familiar with before joining the group. Pugging a group can be more challenging because you don't have any information on the skill level of the other players. so be sure to set your own expectations when picking up random players for your group. That will cover some of the basic terms and concepts for Warcraft. If you found this useful, please leave a like on the video or a comment with any questions or ideas so we can continue to work on this series. The subscribe button and the bell are there so you can see when new videos come out, if that is your desire. As always, please be positive in your guilds and help make WoW a fun place for everyone to play. Goodbye for now.